well, and for her. And you were asking about courage earlier, you know. One of the things that I have watched quite frequently is the way that people respond to being mobbed on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, now I've almost stopped looking at Twitter. It's been about 3 months that I've taken a Twitter hiatus, let's say. I still post, I don't even have my password anymore. I send what I want to post to a third party and they post it because it keeps me out of the...
An antiseptic distance.
That's right, exactly. And that's exactly the right way of thinking about it. You know, people, civilized people, and I mean that in civilized, socialized people, cannot tolerate being mobbed. Because,
no, they can't.
Because, and there's a reason for that. You see, you said, with regards to the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal, you know, if there's 16 people on one side and one on the other, you might be thinking that the 16 people are right.
More or less.
Right. But then you think of the situation where you've said something on Twitter and, you know, 1,000 people mob you publicly. I mean, your first response, your first response is going to be to examine your own conscience and see how you transgressed. It's not really much different psychologically. I mean, it's lesser, I suppose, but it's not that much different than waking up one morning and coming to your door and finding a mob of your neighbors angrily aggregated on your lawn. You know, it's a terrible shock for people, and it really hurts them. You know, they're often, by all accounts, you know, damaged for lengthy periods of time by this, and their first impulse is to apologize, which is truly the wrong thing. Like the right thing to do. Well, the right thing to do is to understand that if you haven't done anything wrong, you don't apologize. Now that's very difficult. It's very difficult.
One of the key talking points which feminism has is that toxic masculinity hurts men because toxic masculinity tells men not to cry. It tells men not to share their feelings. And according to feminists, this causes men to have bottled up emotions which eventually are going to exteriorize through violence, aggression, hatred. And this is why we need to get rid of toxic masculinity. However, seeing Jordan Peterson open up and crying and seeing how the tolerant left, people who also call themselves feminists, have responded to his tears shows why toxic masculinity exists in the first place. I mean, I'm not even going to go through all of the posts, but just to get a glimpse, you have people that are like, oh, here's a better quality video so you can see the tears more clearly. He just cries and shakes for 50 minutes. What a terribly stupid weak man. And also the same person has in the bio, always for the working class, Althusserien poetry slipping in, please be nice. Now I could go and show you far more vile messages, but I don't want this to be the focus of this particular video. What I want to point out is that the reason men should not cry in public is for their own protection. Because you do not want the compassionate left to attack you viciously, mock, ridicule, and make fun of you while you're in an already weakened state. This is why men should not cry. Now, no one is saying that men should not cry at all. It's okay to cry at a funeral. It's okay to cry when your football team wins the championship match. Maybe it's okay to cry when you have an orgasm. But it's not okay to cry on the internet because you will not get any sort of compassion. You're not going to get any sort of understanding, love, or and anything that you might want. I mean, if the compassionate left, the people that constantly talk about empathy, are not able to bring themselves to find an understanding for Jordan Peterson, then who can? Who really can? Who is up to the task? If the left can't do it, then who? But enough about the jokes. Let's talk a little bit about what is transpiring here. Jordan Peterson is going through a very difficult stage in his life. His wife was diagnosed with cancer. His daughter, the internet kindly provided a list of medication which she takes, and she's not doing very well either. And on top of that, he is also under assault, both from the far left and the far right. So as you can see, Jordan Peterson might actually be suffering from clinical depression, which I kind of understand the breakdown, the emotional breakdown which he had. Now, this gets a lot of people to point out that, oh, so Jordan Peterson is just like the people on the far left. He complains about Twitter mobbing. Oh, he's such a snowflake. The difference between what Jordan Peterson is doing and, let's say, someone like Anita Sarkeesian is that Jordan Peterson is just talking from his experience. He's saying he doesn't like it when it's done to him. But he's not advocating for censorship. He's not advocating for the terms of service of Twitter to be made in such a way in order to protect him from people mobbing him on Twitter. He is not trying to take away the rights of people to express themselves. He's simply stating that he has a difficult time dealing with this shit, and he gave his Twitter account to a third party in order to manage this. So he is taking personal responsibility for protecting himself from something he doesn't like, which is something that I can completely appreciate. Since I started my channel, I kept saying that on social media you have the mute button. You shouldn't try to take away the rights of everyone else to protect your fragile feelings, which is what the left is doing, and it's why people are annoyed when the left is complaining about harassment on social media. Because they're not saying, oh, harassment is bad and and I should do something in order to defend myself. They're saying harassment is bad and we need to change the entire system so that people don't harass me. And that is the major difference between someone like Anita Sarkeesian and someone like Jordan Peterson. Shame on you for not noticing it.
My name's Jess Phillips and I'm the Member of Parliament for Birmingham Yardley. I'm taking part in Reclaim the Internet because I am sick of young women telling me that they don't want to speak up and give their ideas because they're worried of the backlash that they might get from trolls or bullies. So I think it's time that we did something about it. I myself have had rape threats, have had my children's life threatened, not by anyone who's actually going to do it, but by faceless people on the internet. This is our street now. This is where we are when we're meeting our friends. This is where we do our business online. And we want to make sure that it's as safe for our daughters as it is for our sons, and that we're not missing out on the big ideas of the future because we just don't want to hear women's voices.
The second talking point is the fact that Jordan Peterson is complaining about mean tweets on the Twitter. And as a person who has been on the Twitter for more than 5 years now, I can tell you that there's different types of brigading. You do have like the vile tweets, the mean tweets that can be solved by blocking, where you have people like Skullfuck47 saying that he wants to shank your mom. Where, you have people calling you a retard, calling you a moron. And yeah, I get that it can be annoying when you have like 95 notifications and, that's literally everything that people say. But that can be fixed by blocking, that can be fixed by muting. There are different ways of fixing that. At the very best, you can just turn off the computer and it all goes away. Like, you don't have to be on the Twitter. But the second type of abuse, which is what Jordan Peterson is also getting, is the life-ruining shit abuse, where people calm down your Twitter and they will find offensive things that you said 4 or 5 years ago. They will try to use that in order to ruin your career. They will go to the social media account of your daughter to try and find out the medication that she is on and then start laughing and mocking about it. They will start contacting your relatives and try to annoy or antagonize or troll them in order to affect you personally, like going after your family, trying to get you fired, that type of thing. And this type of thing can't be fixed by just turning off the computer. This type of thing is really vile. And I can understand why someone would get affected by it. Like if you're a father and some twats on the internet started harassing your daughter, I would find it weird if you didn't get affected by it. Like, I would generally find it bizarre if you would just ignore it. And you need to ignore it, but it's very difficult, especially when you have thousands of people doing it. And in the case of Jordan Peterson, he did enrage both the people on the far left and the people on the far right because of his ideology, because of what he preaches. He's not an identitarian. He encourages people to take care of themselves first before they try to change the world. And this enrages a lot of people with this mentality. Also, he refuses to name the Jew, as I understand. Is something that is of a concern for the people that want freedom for Palestine. But anyway, right, so I completely understand, that a person who has a lot of stress and a lot of things to deal with in his life goes into an emotional breakdown. In fact, to me, this humanizes Jordan Peterson far more than people that I see on CNN or MSNBC that have the plastic smiles, that say the correct things, that always speak the right things, like the politicians that are always saying what needs to be said. Yeah, I kind of, seeing Jordan Peterson in a vulnerable state like that, to me, humanizes him. It shows that he is just like everyone else. Because up till now I was looking at his talk shows and events, and I was like, how on earth can he manage to navigate the labyrinth of political correctness without making a single slip up? Like, how did he manage for years to constantly give talks and presentations and not say something that would be used against him in a cancel culture event? How did he manage to maintain a social media presence without saying one single thing which would be used against him? So that's why I appreciate Jordan Peterson. And he is a weapon against the political correctness of the left, because they really cannot pin anything to attack his character with. So when he eventually has this emotional breakdown, then it's also the left that constantly talks against toxic masculinity and against, not allowing men to cry and show emotion. The left is yet again proving to be hypocrites by attacking Jordan Peterson. But then again, I don't know if they're really considering themselves to be hypocrites, because, they say men. I don't think they consider Jordan Peterson to be a man. I think they consider him to be the Satan. So that is the main problem. Also, good advice from Jordan Peterson not to apologize if you know you didn't do anything wrong, because social justice does not consider apologies as a way of assuming responsibility, acknowledging you did something bad, and promising to do better. No, the advocates of social justice consider apologies to be an admission of guilt, and then they can move on with the prosecution, which is why they never forgive someone after apologizing. So anyway, do let me know what you think. I'll be reading the comment section on this one, and I wish the best for Jordan Peterson. Hopefully he can get past the problems that he is experiencing in his life right now, and we can see him back up to strength, hopefully in the next couple of months.